So I thought these things may have been those balls of paraffin, but there was no lantern above it. It was just maybe a head size ball of burning plasma. A beautiful red color. And it was almost as if it was burning in my mind, similar to those spheres that I had seen in Georgia. But those ones in Georgia's were most definitely mechanical in nature, with a super sensual type feel to them. But this plasma ball, I saw one at first, and it's floating across the sky as if it's on a wire, like it's on a string. That's what it. And I'm looking up there, and I'm looking at is there a string? Is it on something? How is it floating? And there was no smoke that I could perceive. I mean, it's at night, and I could see the dark star-filled sky behind it. But it didn't seem to have a means of propulsion. So I thought, well, fuck, it's a fluke, you know, here's this one ball up there. But as it went off into the distance, another one was following along right behind it. The exact same thing. And so I knew my phone had a camera on it. And so I took out my phone with its camera, and I was going to take a picture of it. And I hold up my camera, and it's one of these candy bar phones, an old Sony candy bar phone. And batteries, now this is nothing unusual. Batteries in the wintertime typically don't last very long. And so as soon as I turn on the camera on the phone, and it's a shit camera anyway, the phone locks up, power out. So it could have been that the phone was low charged. Anyway, I'm not saying that's anything to do with it, but maybe, who knows? Anyway, so I turn it on, I'm about to stick it up there and take a picture, and boom, the thing powers off. And so rather than try to get the phone to come back on or whatever, I'm looking up at these things, and they're going by. All in all, I guess about 4 or 5 of them went by. But other people are walking by, and I'm the only one looking up, and I'm like trying to rouse the people around me to look up, and there's one guy walking by, and I'm like, in Chinese, I tell him, I'm like, hey, 看一下这是什么? And he looks up, and he's like looking down at his phone, and then he looks up, and he looks at it like, fuck, I don't know. And then he's like, just keeps walking, and looks, starts looking at his phone again. And I was thinking to myself, what the actual fuck? There's some kind of head-sized ball, basketball-sized ball of red flaming plasma drifting across the sky, one after another, and you give me a who gives a fuck look. So that's the second time that I remember someone I'm with either not perceiving it the same way as me, or maybe they didn't see the same thing I saw, or they didn't see it in the same way that I saw it, or they didn't want to see it. A little curious. So, metallic spheres, gyroscope-like mechanical sphere, now a red flaming ball of plasma. Next up, I'm back in Seal Beach, California. The year is 2017. The time of year is autumn. And I'm staying at my sister's house. Just relaxing, really. The idea, every time I've gone back to the States and stayed an extended period of time, the main idea is to find a job. But typically I'm so worn out from all the long weeks of work that I've put in in Beijing, and the last couple of times I go home, I'm just so worn out by, oh my God, my wife, that I try to spend a few weeks or even a couple of months just laying low, putting those gaps in my resume, right? Like that's ever fucking mattered. So I'm back in Seal Beach, and I'm enjoying the beach, and going to Long Beach, you know, it's visiting some of the pubs at night. I'm not a big pub drinker, though. For the last 13 years now, I haven't really drank at all. I enjoy an occasional beer, but you know, long periods of time between even having a beer. One of the guys at work today, as I was taking off, he said he was going to hang around another 30 minutes and then head home and have a beer. And I thought, fuck, that sounds nice. I haven't done that in years. And the reason is I think alcohol, for the most part, even small amounts, is not really good for your body. And I don't know, it gives you a little thrill, but then the next day, you know, it's you can feel that it has an adverse effect on human tissue. I say this and I'm a smoker, right? Everyone always tells me a little bit of alcohol is better than smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, so I'm in Seal Beach, and I was listening to Radio Misterioso. It was a podcast program by, I forget the guy's name, but I'll look it up and put it down in the description. Radio Misterioso. And I had been listening to that guy for a few months, and he had a guy on the show that said, if you want to experience something paranormal, it's super easy. All you have to do is go out at night, every night at the same time for a couple of weeks, look up into the sky or go to a quiet place or whatever, every night, same time, for a couple of weeks, and something paranormal will happen to you. He was so confident in saying this that, and the guy was on, talked for like 2 hours. He said, you'll have a mysterious feeling. He's like, if you want to see something paranormal, it works, but I warn you that it may not be what you want. You may think you want to experience the paranormal, but you do this at your own risk. You could end up disappearing. You could end up going bananas. You could end up destroying your life. So I was, again, solo. I was taking a break from the wife and kids, which, believe me, I earned that fucking break. That woman, she's better now, but man, not much. And back then, she was a literal fucking monster. So anyway, enough of that. I start going out every night, like around midnight, maybe a little after, maybe a little before. And I'm doing this, looking up at the sky and imagining the paranormal, telling the stars, that shine at night, show me what you're gonna show me, type of thing. I had a prayer worked out, God, show me that which you would have me see, and have me understand it, so that I may know and share this knowing with others. So I was looking for the Visio Beatifica. viewing God face to face, so to speak. And like clockwork, it was about the second, somewhere along after the second week, that I had done this every night. Nothing. Shooting star, meteor or whatever. I saw one meteor. After that meteor, the next couple of nights, I went out and I lit a cigarette, and about 150 feet away from me, two buildings. I believe they're about 2 stories, maybe 3. 2 stories with high ceilings, so we're talking 30 plus feet tall. These 2 buildings, gap in between them, about a 50-foot gap between the 2 buildings with a road and some parking. And I'm standing behind my sister's building, facing southwest, perhaps. The hour was probably 12:30 or so. And I would spend about 30 minutes out there each time. And now this happened within, like, let's see, I'll time it. It was probably about 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 or 8 seconds is about the length of the experience. And what happened was, like a portal at the base of the building seemed to open up, and a steel gray, bluish steel gray energy, smoke like a plasma, but almost smoke like in color and texture, appeared in a good size, a meter, maybe 3 plus feet, 3-4 feet round, appeared like a drop of water. That was the effect, circular but rippling. And it appeared at the base of the building, like that, and it formed it and sucked up like a water drop in reverse. Yeah, this is the first time I've really taken to analyze it and describe it. Like a water droplet in reverse, and then forming into a perfect sphere, and went up the building, rose up, and then as it rose to the top of the building, the right side of me, it jumped across. So it bloop formed, rose up in a sphere, and the sphere shrank in size. So it started about 4 feet, and then as it sucked up and levitated straight to the top of the building, it was a sphere of maybe foot and a half. Then as it shot out from the right building to the left building and over it, it took the form of a large, I would say 8-foot simian. I want to say like Bigfoot, like a Sasquatch, but it wasn't. The texture of this creature was more like Mothman, like I would imagine Mothman looked, except for the face was distinctly orangutan. The coloration was white fur on blue-black skin, and the face was blue-black and blue dipped in like an orangutan with a very coarse dark black facial hair, like around the face and down. And it had a face, and its arms were up like this and its legs were up, and so it was like in a jumping position, and it jumped out and it just shot across the entire length of the building to my left, I'll say south of this building. Maybe this building's north, this building's south. I'm facing kind of southwest, so you get the directional situation. And it traveled not fast, but 12 to 15 miles an hour perhaps, increasing its speed as it went. And see, the night was cloudless at the start of this. And is there time distortion? How could the atmosphere change that much? Because it shot off across the tops of the buildings and then disappeared into like some smoke, cloud-like smoke, almost like the same material that it appeared from. But how did that appear? It didn't seem like any of that was there when it first appeared. Like I was out there, it was a starry sky, cloudless starry sky, I'm smoking my cigarette, and then what happened, right? How could a 7 to 8 second long experience seem like it threw me into a dream almost, and seemed like it could last so long? Because here's what happened. As it shot across the sky, I connected with its face. I looked it right in the face, and it looked at me, but it looked through me. And it communicated a message to my mind as it went by, that something like, we dwell among you, we watch you, we care for you, but we could also consume you. And the depth of its transmission went to like the core of my being, and I vibrated with a kind of unusual psychical energy. Now, after having studied more about the dimensions that surround us, this type of being I would classify as an etheric being, and dwelling on the ethereal. I've had the other encounters, the red plasma balls at the drum tower. They were not of ethereal realm. They were more of an astral type expression, and maybe related with the elemental kingdom of fire. This one would have been related with the elemental kingdom of air, would be my guess. Water? Don't think so. Those mechanical ones that I saw, I would associate with, hey, I've never made this connection before, but I'm thinking that these are the traditional sylphs, undimes, salamanders. I've seen a salamander too. A real fire lizard, big black one with a crimson red underbelly that came out of a giant bonfire that I had in the countryside. And it was thrashing its tail around in the ashes with hot coals still in the bed. So I know that it was not an ordinary lizard. And it came out of that fire and darted off into the shadows of the night, unharmed. But it seems as if they could be Kabbalistic expressions of the elements, because I was back in Tennessee when I was much younger, and during a thunderstorm, well, quite a few lightning experiences now that I think about it, but one in particular, I saw ball lightning, and I was at my land that my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my mother's mother, left me, and the house is abandoned, the windows are broken out, and country folk had got in there and stole wood panelings and took the toilet and the sink and fucking, took the kitchen cabinets out and just robbed the house. Because I guess they felt like nobody was using that stuff. And even though I pay my fucking taxes every year, they still robbed my little cabin. So that's a bummer. But, what are you gonna do? So I was there, and there was a storm, and I was burning a fire in the wood stove fireplace that I had there. I think they hadn't stole that yet, but the next time I went there, it was gone. So I was there, and there was a storm outside, a thunderstorm, and there was lightning and thunder, and the lightning struck a tree outside, and then lightning flashed again, and I was in one of the rooms, and for some reason it like flashed, and then it didn't stop flashing. So there was flash, 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 and I thought, fuck, there must be a lot of lightning out there. So I went real quick into the other room, and there was a perfect sphere of lightning floating in through the window with flashes coming off of it. Flash, 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 flash. And I felt hypnotized by it immediately, but I ran outside to get away from it because I thought it would kill me, and probably would have, I don't know. But I ran out, and that thing floated through the entire house, and I saw it like a strobe light go from one room to another. It went from like the front room to the kitchen to the side room, and then it must have gone out the side of the other window, because all the windows were busted out, and it kept flashing on the back of the house for a little while, and then it was gone. So that was interesting. But after that, it was either that night or the next, I had fallen asleep and had a dream that I went into a cavern under the house. And that old house has a well, and the well's about 20 feet deep. It's stone, concrete, has a iron lid on top of it. You can open it, drop a rock in there, and hear it splash. During heavy rains, the water comes all the way to the top of the well. Last time I was out there, the rains were so heavy and there was so much flooding that the water was like right at the top of the well, like within inches of it. But I had a dream that I had gone underground, and there was a large cavern underneath to the side of the well. And there's a huge oak tree out there, maybe hundreds of years old. It was big. My grandmother told me that oak tree was huge when she moved there back in like the 1920s or 30s. So now it's 2020, and I don't know if that tree's still there or not. I haven't been back in a while, but it seems like it was. It seems like 2 years ago I went there, it was still there. But I had a dream that I had gone under there, and there were these gnomes, these gnome-like creatures, and they communicated with me similar to how that Mothman creature communicated with me, just telepathically, direct messages coming into my mind. And they said that they used to do trading with my grandmother, that they would bring her bottles of wine for herbs that she would grow. She would gather polk salad and all different kinds of things. And they said that they traded with her and that they were willing to trade with me. And they wanted me to gather specific herbs. Honeysuckle was one of them, and golden seal. And they said that if I gathered those things and left them like between the tree and the well, that there was a passage to that cavern and they would come out. Maybe they came out of the well, I don't know. And they would gather those things and leave me bottles of mystic wine that when you drank it would, you know, be good for you, heal ailments, and make you dream, lucid dreaming, to visit them in their kingdom for extended periods of time. Well, I didn't have no time for that shit. I was busy making money and chasing my own dream. I was on the magical path. I ended up writing some stories about that and drew the pictures of the gnomes. There was a whole group of them. They visited me again later on in life. But that was the very first experience I had with the gnomes. They were gregarious and friendly and mischievous. Not like that elemental air spirit, man. That thing was... It was not friendly, not talkative. I don't want to say any of them were really that talkative, but he didn't offer to do commerce with me or do any trading or anything. And I had a feeling that his main thing was, you know, predator and prey. Like, hey, you got a kid, you don't pay attention to it for 5 minutes, I'm gonna grab it and pull it into the spirit world. But those gnome creatures, earth element, I would imagine, living under the earth, subterranean dwellers. Not the troglodytes, though. I've met troglodytes too. That's another story for another day. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 encounters with sphere beings. And I don't want to sound like, what's that fucking guy's name? You guys know who I'm talking about. Blue Chicken Cult Man. Don't want to sound like him. These are not ongoing contacts. These were all specific instances and one-off encounters that required month upon month of focusing and ritual work before their appearance. I guess if I was super imaginative, I could write a bunch of dialogues and invent my own secret space program and go public with it, eh? No, because that would be dubious. That would be fictitious. All of these things were, I mean, were they real? I don't know. I don't know. What do you really know? I know that they happened. I experienced them. I was there. Were they hallucinations? Why would I wasn't taking drugs. I wasn't starving or fasting or anything. Fast intermittently on and off all the time, but Is it possible that environmental effects? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the best answer, Occam's razor, I think that these things were genuine spiritual encounters. And they all came at times when I was questioning the reality of spiritual phenomena. When I had been on such a long stint, because I've had quite a few of these experiences in my life, but it seems like lifetimes can go between each one. I mean, the last truly spiritual experience I had was a trip to the Invisible College, where I was and I was dreaming. This wasn't a waking one. Most of those others, all of those others, the Georgia experience, the UFOs when I was a kid, the Georgia experience with the mechanical spheres, the Gulo experience with the plasma balls, red fiery plasma balls, the Mothman experience in Seal Beach, the ball lightning experience in Tennessee. All of those were in the waking state. Do we really know when we're ever awake? But yeah, they were waking state experiences. And each one, I mean, what do they last? 6 to 10 seconds? And then you have a time dilation experience afterwards where it feels like it could have lasted hours. But from one thing to go from here to there doesn't take hours, and that much mind-to-mind communication can't take place in just a few seconds. So there are many things in this great earth plane that we do not understand. And as a single individual, and then when they're group experiences, and or maybe there's a person with you or a couple of other people standing around, and they act like hey, it's nothing, it's no big fucking deal. I don't get that aspect of it. Let's see, I had one more that I wanted to share with you before I sign off for today, but it's not coming to mind, so I'll leave it there. How about the next one? What's the one about the Invisible College. I was in a lucid dream recently, and I was standing around with a lot of good-looking people, people in their 20s and 30s, tall, handsome, beautiful women and men, young folks. And there's a dimension. I've been to this place more times than I can easily count. And it happened a lot when I was in my late 20s, mid 30s. But I started calling it the Invisible College because of Blavatsky's work. But there is truly a college of sorts where there's these, it's like being at the Parthenon back in ancient Greece. These large columned buildings with vast halls filled with scrolls and books on the level of the library at Alexandria. And it's up in the mountains. And I start the journey to go there, and there's teams of wild horses running across the plains, and people stand in these villages and drink wine and chat and I think they're smoking spliffs. And I always have, you know, these amorous feelings for the folks around me. Great true love, martial arts, dance, knowledge. So these teams of wild horses are summoned, and they go into the mountains, and they run in a thick vein of droves. And I was standing with this beautiful French girl talking in fluent French, and I don't speak fluent French, but in my dream I can. Lucid dream, I could speak fluid French and Russian and German, Japanese, whatever language is being spoken, I can understand everything and respond to it. So the horses are headed into the mountains, and you can see the purple skies with lightning flashing across the backdrop, and the mountains rise up, and the colleges are up there, the buildings are up there, the college is up there in the mountains. And as the horses run up the trail, the girl grabs my hand, and we levitate and dash out onto the backs of the horses barefoot, or maybe moccasin boot styles, because I'm not super fond of being barefoot, but run across the backs of the horses up into the mountains, not even riding them, just running across their backs. And you get up to that invisible college really fast. And once you're up there, you can socialize. That's the main thing. The main takeaway I always get from it is that everybody's socializing, rubbing elbows and talking about cosmic events, and wearing beautiful natural fabrics spun from heavenly energy. Everyone's in prime health and looking good. And getting back before work, it's funny because I always have this sense that I got to get up and go to work, and I'll be chatting with some of the folks up there. I need to start asking them their names and bringing back names from that realm. But sometimes I'm looking for a ticket, and there's this like golden ticket that gets you're on, like, there's like buses and trains and different types of carriages that come back from the invisible college into the waking world. And I'm running around getting in lines and stuff and flashing my golden ticket. And I remember telling them, hey, I gotta go back, I gotta work's about to start, I gotta get up in time for work. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you still gotta do that stuff. Okay, we'll talk to you later, you know, goodbye, come back when you can. And then I'll jump on the bus or whatever, and it's some rickety ass bus, and it'll roll back down into my reality, and I'll wake up. And I always wondered, if I didn't have that ticket, or I couldn't catch that bus back, if maybe you know, I'd end up dead, I'd stay there, or maybe just this whole dream of this waking reality would end, and I would stay eternally in those unbelievably beautiful and pure dreamland vistas. So that's where the inspiration for the Dreamland series, that